You're listening to the Bon Mee Show on ITV.ie and Irish News Radio. Today is Tuesday, so we're going to be talking about our Gruesome Tuesday. And like everything in Islam, it is gruesome. This time we're going to be talking about what's happened to the Yazidis, women who were taken. So we'll start off with why the Irish don't believe Islam is a problem. It's taken me a long time to actually see why the Irish refuse to actually acknowledge it as a problem. And I was talking to this lady in a bank and I was asking her, what's the situation with Brexit, with Ulster Bank? And she just passed it off. Oh, that'll never happen. Oh, no, that'll never happen. I was like, it's happening on the 29th of March. That'll never happen. And it reminded me of when I was working in Dublin in retail, and people would come in and it was just before the Euro and people were like literally saying the same thing. That Euro will never happen. That's a ridiculous idea. Who ever thought of that? That'll never happen. And they honestly don't believe it's happening or it'll happen. They don't. And today it really hit me that the Irish will not recognise Islam as an issue because that's what they do with everything they don't want to recognise, as in Brexit. I was talking to somebody today about Brexit. Literally, her attitude was that, that'll never happen. Don't be silly, that'll never happen. I'm like, it's happening on the 29th of March. It'll never happen. And it took me back to a time just before the Euro came in and talking to people, and literally the same attitude. I'm talking about, I was working in retail and an hour before it was changed and they had a week or so to change their money, otherwise it would be worth nothing. But up to the hour before it changed, you had majority of Irish going, that'll never happen. That Euro's a rubbish idea. Who thought of that? That's a ridiculous thing. They just dismiss it. If they don't want to know or they don't deal with it or they can't deal with it, then they just rather pretend it's not happening. And it's quite a strange, it really just hit me today talking with this woman Brexit and she really not believing it's happening. And it's really like that if you try and explain what Islam is. They really can't get it through. They don't want to hear it because it doesn't suit them, so they'd rather dismiss it as if it's not real. So we're going to talk about what's been happening with different groups in Islam. So basically, the SSA fined 50 sex slave heads, severed heads of sex slaves found in dustbins. A cowardly slaughter of these poor unfortunate women as they find the last act of depravity in a fit as they leave the severed heads behind for the SAS soldiers to find in a battle. The SAS troops say that they will never forget what they found. The SAS first were deployed in Iraq and Syria in 2015. A manhunt was set for Mohammed Emizi, known as Jihad John, who had became known for beheading Western hostages. The SAS operatives were accompanied by hundreds of the Syrian defence troops. Now that's Assad's troops. Now, so much for all the Western media, Assad's this, Assad's that, because SAS were working with them. Anyway, we'll ignore that bit. But it just shows you Assad wasn't as bad. And if you look around at Syrians, particularly the Christian Syrians, they often have Assad as their hero. And you've got to remember, he was voted in. It's not like even Leo, who doesn't even have a mandate. The Syrian people went out in huge numbers to vote for Assad. He's very popular, particularly with the Christians, because he does stick up and say, although he is a Muslim, and I don't believe any real Muslim who's practicing Islam is a good. I actually think all of them, if you're practicing Islam, it is a dangerous. But Assad, I don't know, like his wife isn't in a burqa or a hijab or anything. She was educated in London. Seems to be quite normal. They don't seem to be practicing Islam, thankfully. And they seem to stand up for Christians, which is good. ISIS were forced underground. Among them were ISIS fighters dressed as women. Typical. They hate women so much. Muslims, not just ISIS. People go, oh, that's just ISIS. But Muslims in general hate women. Islamic men hate women, so much so they see them as a quarter of a man. And the most occupants, Muhammad said, in hell were women. And they've a quarter of a brain. They've no right to be free, like women in general. And yet, when they're trying to flee a fight with other men, they dress as women. They are just cowardly. Islam, this is typical of all Islam. SAS and SDF forces cleared tunnels in night vision goggles. 100 hardcore jihadis fled and passed themselves off as refugees and are in Europe now. Surprise, surprise. I'd say there's a lot more than 100, but anyway, 100 in from this particular battle got out. They're just lying, treacherous. Every Muslim are absolutely. There is nothing good about Islam. It's a dangerous, dangerous, evil cult, and it's because it takes everything in. It's every single part of your life, and I think that is why the Irish will never deal with it. They will always pass it off as in Ireland will never become an Islamic State. That'll never happen. You won't see women being beheaded here. You won't see young girls being female mutilated here. And yes, we have. You won't see the grooming gangs happen here. Yes, you will. Or if you do, sure, weren't the Catholic Church doing the same thing? They have to dismiss it. They are not able to deal with it, which is very dangerous. Because if you have a country where a majority of people are not able or not willing to deal with something, would rather go into denial or, pass it off, shouldn't Catholic Church just as bad, sure, it's all the same. That's not good enough. Like, we have no future unless some of you wake up and fight back. We have no future with the Ash or the Catholic Church did the same. That's not good enough, and it's not even the same. It's completely not comparing apple with pears. It's completely different. Yes, the Catholic Church for the 100 times did do terrible things, and things happened in the Catholic Church, but it wasn't written in the Bible. This is what the difference is. The major difference is it wasn't written in the Bible. These things are written in the Quran, Hadith, and the Sunnah. So this is where the problem lies. Muhammad was an evil warmonger, rapist, child, paedophile, rapist. Jesus was a good man. That is the huge difference. So the lessons that people are being told by Jesus is, don't steal, don't rob, don't rape, don't kill, don't do this. They're life skills. What you've been told as Muhammad is, rape is permissible if she's not wearing if she's wearing whatever clothes, if this is that, and she was outside marriage. There's no such thing as actual rape. It's an adultery, and to prove rape, you have to have 3 men as witness to prove you were raped. And even then, it's so impossible unless he said he was there. Majority of the women will pay the price for being raped. It's up to 70 slashes, and that's if you're lucky. A lot of them get stoned to death. That is the reality of people. It'll never happen here. Yes, it will happen here. And it has happened in other Western countries. It will. It's only a matter of time before honour killings come here. And that's our least of our problem. The styles of grooming gang rapes that are in the UK will be here, if not already here. But because of the Irish media, you will not know, like the English, until about 30 years later. It is absolutely Yazidis
women. A 10-year-old girl was raped and tortured and beaten with cables, is now pregnant. Children were taken, beaten, with cables, raped by hundreds. Women and children were taken and divided up by age. Most prized were 10 to 20. They were sold into markets, forced to eat sticks and animal dung to survive, frequently sold, kept underground for months. So-called jihadi brides, beating other children and women for not being Muslim. This is the reality. And there is no way of getting around that. This is the reality. And that is how much they hate women themselves born into this cult. The very few get out, the very few understand that they have a value. But majority born into this believe that if they don't live like this, or they don't act like this, or they were going to hell. Or the hell they call it. And it's not hell for things that we think is good and bad. It's for things that are, she didn't obey her husband. She walked out the door when he told her not to. She ate something he told her not to. She didn't cook the dinner on the right side of the table. Any of this sort of bullshit. That is what is considered adultery. Not adultery that she actually slept with someone, but she possibly was seen in the same room as somebody. These are things that women can get killed for. And for just merely a man saying she did something without any proof. This is the reality of Islam. And all, sure, it'll never happen, is not going to save Ireland. We need to wake up, and we need to fight, and we need to say no more mosques, no more foreign investments. If you want to come in, fine, but you leave Islam on your door, because not only is it dangerous for our women and our children, which should be enough to stop it, but even at that, it's dangerous for ex-Muslims, it's dangerous for women. You think that majority of women love this burqa and hijab. They have no choice. In Islamic countries, there's things called moral police. And if they have a bit of their hair, a tiny strand of their hair showing, 7 men will come with batons and beat the hell out of her. That is the reality of Islam. And in most Islamic families, they do not have a choice of what they wear. Why do you think there's been so many honor killings in the West? It's because women have a taste of freedom and they don't want to dressed in a black bin bag walking around the street like a clitoris glim reaper. They want to be something else. They want to be human. They want to be free. And they get a taste of it. And that often leads to their death. Look at the honor killings in the West. They were all done because the woman wanted to dress in Western ways. So a lot of women who are Muslims know that. So even if they wanted to become Western or, wanted to they know that there's been so many who are killed. That her family would kill her. And it's such a hard thing as well. Not even, obviously the killing is horrible and horrific to know that your parents would prefer you to dress in a bin bag than be free. Because they don't want. For them, that is more evil. And the best thing that can happen to her is to be killed, to give back honour to their family, to their community, to their name, is that she is killed. And there's no more, that'll never happen, going to work, because she will be killed. Or she will be left in silence in the bin bag. And while all of you stupid feminazis put on the stupid hijab, on hijab day, you're not helping them. You're encouraging the gender apartheid. You're encouraging her enslavement is what you're doing. That is not freedom. And it's about time you all wake up and say no more. Say to the government, no more mosques, no more foreign investment, no more, because we've lost this country. The EU have taken it. But the next thing is stripped of everything, and it will be an Islamic State. Have a look at Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, Afghanistan, any of those countries before it became an Islamic State, and you'll see that those women were freer than Irish women. They had a fantastic life. They had good jobs and different things before it became an Islamic State. The Islamic State robbed everything, their language, their culture, their freedom, and put them in slavery. That's what Islam does, particularly for women, puts you in a black bag before you've even lived. And that is the reality. Thank you for listening on the Bon Marie Show on the Gruesome Tuesday. If you want to talk about anything, get in contact and let us know what you think. But it's time that we all wake up and no more pretending, sure, it'll never happen. It's not that bad. I know a Muslim. They did this. If you know a Muslim, or real Muslims will be dressed and acting like a real Muslim. And a real Muslim can lie and smile to your face. Because a Christian and Jew can never be a friend of a Muslim. And if you really think any different, have a look at their books. Read their books. They're available. It's not like a secret. Go get the Quran. Go get the Hadiths. And go get the Sunnah. And read them for yourself and know what you're talking about. Sure, it's like the Bible. It's nothing like the Bible. The Old Testament was the life before Christ. The New Testament is the life of Christ. And as Christians, you're supposed to live and follow Jesus. As Muslims, you're supposed to live and follow Muhammad. The big difference is Jesus went around and cured people. He created miracles. He saved us. He died for us. He showed us how to live in a peaceful way. None of us can actually live up to how good he was. Muhammad went around and killed personally 500 Jews himself. He raped hundreds of women and children. It's a big, big difference. And as for that fake Pope saying it's the same thing, that just shows you he is a fake Pope. Any Christian that says that a man who killed 500 Jews himself and raped hundreds of girls and married a 6-year-old child and raped her at 9 and did talk about acts to her before he raped her final rape. Have a look at that and decide, is that Jesus? That is not, that is the devil. And the Pope saying it's like, he would know better. So I'm telling you, that's the Satanist Pope. That's not a real Pope. No Christian would say that's the same thing. Thank you again for listening on the Bon Marie Show. We'll be talking tomorrow with the wonderful Elvis, and we will be discussing the UN and how, again, people are just blind to see what is going on. And particularly in Ireland, sure, that'll never happen. When it happens, and it will happen, Brexit will happen, and Ireland is very much on its way to becoming an Islamic State if they do not wake up and fast. The EU is our destruction. Thank you for listening again on the Bon Marie Show.
You are listening to Irish News Radio at irishnews.net. Email news@irishnews.net.